Good morning or afternoon from wherever you're joining us today, and welcome to Automotive Logistics' very first packaging dedicated live stream. Whether you're joining us live or tuning in later, this live stream is all about turning theory into practice, giving you fresh insights to help build a stronger business case for packaging's role in the automotive supply chain inside or outside your organization. But before we dive in, I just want to give a huge thank you to our sponsor, CKD Pack. Their work exemplifies the evolving role of packaging in the supply chain. As a partner to OEMs globally, they help design and execute reusable packaging that supports sustainability, efficiency, and end-to-end supply chain value. So it's especially fitting that we do have them here backing today's conversation. And if you haven't met me yet, maybe this is your first live stream, or you've just come across something I've written recently, or we've briefly just bumped into each other on the ground at an event, I'm really glad to have you here. I'm Emily Omedimo, Managing Editor of Automotive Logistics, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. But before we dive into the session lineup, just a quick note to all of us joining. This is an interactive session, so I strongly encourage you to join the conversation throughout. Please do feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A box at any time, and we'll do our very best to answer them during specific intervals with our lineup of speakers. So a little bit of what to expect in today's show. We will be kicking things off with a very short editor's note from me, sharing trends on packaging from our recent events and editorial coverage. Then we'll be moving into a keynote from Rob Newing at Cummins, where he'll talk about building returnables into strategy and operations. And after that, we'll head into our panel discussion, where Rob will stay with us and be joined by Adam Wiley from Honda and Aaron Modgill from CKD Pack to explore some of the regional strategies, operational hurdles, and innovations in packaging. But really, before we jump into that nitty-gritty of today's discussion, I'd just like to take a moment to reflect on why we're focusing on packaging. Packaging has definitely quietly become one of the most dynamic, but maybe it is dramatic areas in automotive logistics. I know, packaging isn't always the headline grabber for a long time, but behind the scenes, it is a big detail of what we're seeing, and it is really becoming a big key trend. Packaging can influence anything from cost and compliance to efficiency and sustainability, which are kind of the topics that our speakers are going to be sharing more about today. And I say this as someone who really looks very widely across some of the topics that we've been covering, especially that's trending in the industry. So from localization and digitalization all the way through to tariff disruption. But over the last year, we can definitely see a surge of stories about innovation in packaging, specifically from companies using packaging as a real competitive edge to cut waste and freight costs, as well as to adapt to new environmental regulations. At our global conference this time last month, for instance, packaging was front and center on stage. We had Nissan's Ivan Davala sharing how his team are kind of re-engineering parts packaging, and as a result has managed to halve the number of truck trailers needed to ship those parts. We also had GM's Marcio Lucon sharing how smarter packaging design has helped centralize supplier flows and align logistics with broader transformation goals at GM. So I'd really encourage you to read more about those case studies in some of the articles that have just been shared with you in the chat, and you can definitely find out more. And this shift isn't just happening on something we're seeing just on paper. I now want to share a very quick perspective from our Chief Content Officer, Christopher Ludwig, who observed just how fast things are changing for packaging in automotive following our day one at the global conference.
Important area that we had more focus on this year was on packaging. So we had people like Alex Burnett, the head of inbound and containers from General Motors, Ivan Davila from Nissan, really emphasizing the importance of early stage design consideration in packaging and the impact that can have on overall transport costs, on automation opportunities, for example, as well as on sustainability. We unpacked packaging, so to speak, across multiple sessions, which really got great response, underlining just how important it is. But again, it all came back again and again to this value add and the importance of communication and collaboration. I think in 25 years, that is something that hasn't changed. It's just become a stronger requirement.
So a very short clip there, but it wouldn't feel quite right if Chris wasn't with us in some shape or form. Thank you for joining us even virtually, Chris. But one of the things I would love about kind of what Chris highlighted there in the video was the momentum and collaboration we're seeing when it comes to packaging, and how something as considered, everyday as packaging is now kind of driving big changes across logistics networks. This again really only reinforces what we've been seeing in our wider editorial coverage with the likes of, as Chris highlighted there, Nissan, but we've also got GM and an interview with Magna on our website. And what kind of that all encompasses is that, those companies are really getting kind of efficiency gains and resilience, and really looking at the environmental benefits when it comes to packaging. And, while I've kind of shared what I've shared so far is largely from like a North American focus. Europe is moving pretty quickly in packaging too, and this momentum is being strongly propelled by regulatory drivers. Now, I won't go into too much detail on the European side, as we do have Rob here sharing more deeply about this region and in his keynote just after this. But to help paint that broader picture, I do want to highlight a case study from Renault, who shared some valuable takeaways at our event in Bonn back in March. Their circular economy strategy focuses on reuse, repair, and retrofitting before recycling. And what this really presents is a really strong business case for packaging within Europe, especially as the industry prepares for the EU's upcoming PPWR regulation. And if you want to read more about Renault's packaging journey, the article has also been shared with you in this chat. But to really round off my editor's note and kind of summary of packaging, I think it's really interesting to note that both Europe and North America are tackling similar challenges in packaging, but probably coming from it two different angles. With fewer regulatory mandates in the US compared to Europe, you could argue packaging improvements tend to be driven more by cost efficiency, design, and competitive advantage rather than just compliance alone. But we will be exploring that contrast in a lot more depth shortly, with two speakers on our panel representing each region separately, and also with CKD Pack also representing that global focus. So I hope that sets us up nicely for our keynote. What does packaging innovation look like in practice? What kind of hurdles do we have to overcome, and what kind of benefits can you ultimately gain? So to answer those questions, we've got an industry leader who's been driving that transformation firsthand. We have Rob Newing, Returnable Packaging Operations Leader at Cummins, who has been at the forefront of implementing reusable packaging across Cummins aftermarket and manufacturing sites in EMEA, driving both supply chain cost reduction and sustainability compliance. He's going to share how his company took on this challenge and what they learned along the way. It's a great illustration of the themes we've been talking about here in the beginning: innovation, efficiency, and sustainability, all coming together in the packaging arena. So Rob, it's great to have you here with us. I would like to hand things over to you to really kick things off.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, so I'm going to take you through a few slides on our journey at Cummins so far, kind of how we got into this, where the process, the guiding principles, what pooled packaging means to us, and then we'll kind of close into the Q&A and then into the sort of the next session of the live stream. So within the company, we've this is kind of our destination zero, as we call it. There's many key factors we want to drive costs down that we've publicly communicated that we're going to deliver on, and packaging is certainly seen as one of the key drivers for driving waste reduction on a global basis. So bringing that down into the EMEA region, so Europe, Middle East, and Africa. We are driven, obviously, more recently by the PPWR guide compliance. Obviously, that's not the sole reason for doing it. It's about driving the waste, but it just gives another sort of layer of reason why we should do this, to make sure we're obviously compliant. I don't for 1 second confess to be the absolute expert in what the PPWR is. It's still developing. It's developing quite quickly now. So we're just going after the key elements of that, and we know that we've got to reduce the amount of recycled components and packaging, etc. And recycling is like the last one you heard it about, Ren. So it's more about the reuse, re-engineer, replace, and then recyclability is kind of the bit that kind of encompasses all of that. So like making sure now the reusable packaging we have does contain the minimum of 35% recycled content. That's increasing to 65% by 2040, which feels like quite a long way away until you kind of look back in the mirror and think, well, what was 14 years ago, and there you arrive in 2040. So but also it gets into the improving the efficiency and fill rate on trucks, and how we use packaging, etc. as well. So it's all about the driving optimization as well, and that sees this out. So the key elements for us is around these environmental. Obviously, where everything we do that we bring onto site has to be safe. That's the first primary objective. And then you kind of get in, I kind of put cost last, because, and the reason I say that, if you get your safety right first, get your quality right, get your process right, the kind of cost and efficiency, the cost will take care of itself. So then, you having better returnable operations, delivering optimized, transport, so moving more or less, improving density, that naturally then configures into your warehousing strategy. So you can, handling less times, reducing repacking, increasing space optimization. But also when we're designing this as well, making sure that we are future proof for things like automation, storage, retrieval, line side delivery, etc. And then really underpinning all of this is the digitalization. So one of the things we see today is where we have used returnable packaging, is some of the noises you hear is, well, I haven't got enough of it, I don't know where it is, or we keep losing it, it's in the wrong place at the wrong time, etc. So having that visibility through track and trace, we understand where packaging is. We can cross-reference that with our demand and make sure that we optimize efficiently and get that to the suppliers in the right quantities, in efficient quantities at the right time. And for this project, we're executing in sort of two real main sectors. Converting expendable packaging into reusable plastic containers supplied through our returnable packaging program. And if not, if we have got some legacy returnables, because we have got a lot of that out there as well, is making sure that we're tagging them and making sure that we can track and manage them throughout the process. And this thing, we're going to be using our container management centres, CMCs, because we all have an acronym. And this will receive, clean, maintain and distribute the containers back into the suppliers. But by having that centralised operation, you can look at, in our situations, well, we have same suppliers that deliver to multiple sites, so we can manage that demand efficiently rather than the site individually having to make that call off. We can look at the whole picture and be more efficient there. And then we've got packaging engineers working collaboratively with suppliers to create them optimal designs as well. So making sure what we design in works with the supplier, works with our transportation and warehousing network, and also delivers what we need in the manufacturing sector too. So the sort of key elements again is about having pooled packaging, tracking, control of our inventory, cleaning management centres, good planning tools. And then obviously around the implementation process as well. And one of the other things I want to kind of underpins all this is, well, because we are starting out, when you start a new journey, you learn a lot of new things as well. It's about the metrics as well. So measuring our performance, creating improvement ideas and executing on them as well. So not only are we rolling this out, we are also looking at ourselves to make sure that we can continually improve and enhance what we've got out there. Some of the key elements around the pork packaging, why we do it, is we look at the one of the unique selling points of Cummins is we make such an array of engines for every kind of occasion, and with that comes a high parts proliferation. So we can not have demand on certain part numbers for more than 12 months, 24 months, but we need to be able to able to cater for that. So having adjustable modular designs allows us to adjust our footprints and heights. It will quick and easy repair and disassembly, etc. Optimizing them footprints maximizes the space efficiency across European transportation. Obviously, reducing supply chain costs, lower fuel consumption, carbon emissions comes sort of part and parcel of that. Lightweighting is a big deal as well. So the nature of the product we make, there's some heavy materials in the components. So if we can reduce the weight of the packaging, it means we either reduce the carbon footprint of the truck, or actually allows us to put more material on it. So at the end of the day, it still leads to less miles on the road. And then making sure that this also links in with sustainable dunnage systems, so we can design dunnage systems that fits in these containers that then can be removed and put into different containers, or we can flex up and down with obsolescence and fluctuations in volume, etc. So, and then at the end of this, we want a circular maintenance program that delivers a cradle to grave solution. So the packaging, so when we get into the packaging, we want to make sure that's a sustainable solution as well. So all these components can be replaced, repaired, or at the end of their life, or if they get beyond economical repair, they can be reground and put back into the manufacturing process, as well as our some of our legacy packaging that can also be taken and reground and go back into the manufacturing of new packaging, which then satisfies the recycled content. So also, we are thinking about the actual solution we use is also is sustainable. And then managing all this as well, we're using the track and trace system that goes into a cloud system as well. We can produce metrics on that, so we can measure our performance. It can help us with future planning, budget management, etc. as well, but also creating that visual information about where stuff is and where it's needed. A little bit here about this is what we want our trucks to look like. So full on the left, full of components. And then on the way back, empty, sending the empties back. We want to optimize our networks. We have a huge network of flows covering the material for aftermarket manufacturing, our kind of franchise dealers that get the parts out to the dealer network as well. And it's just about making sure that we're utilizing that network efficiently. So we maximize that, getting empties back into the supply base as well in them optimal units. So we're kind of focusing on our suppliers that we implement. We're doing a kind of geographical focus. So if it's like for example, we'll pick a cluster of suppliers that's in Germany, so we can make sure that we're delivering efficiently back into that region, rather than sort of just scatterbombing the whole of Europe. We can be more effective in our returns process. And we've kind of used the Smart Freight Centre and the GLEC, which is the Global Logistics Emissions Council. This has been a really useful tool to help us manage like the business cases as well. So when we start talking about them other incremental elements about less miles, use burning less fuel, what does that really mean? We've got a kind of a body here that's been is recognised as well. So it helps us stand up some of our financial justifications on the investment and what it's going to deliver for us. So that really is a snapshot into our world. We'll get into more detail on the next session. So most of kind of the Q&A will now sort of fall over to the next part of the live stream. So thank you, Emily.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rob. Definitely there, kind of an overview of giving like that innovation, efficiency, sustainability for sure. But please do stay on the screen with us. I just want to share a quick note for our audience just to remind them that this is a live an interactive session. So do submit your questions as Rob has shared here. We will be going into a panel, but we'll definitely include those as and when. And I just wanted to also share if today's conversation has sparked kind of any ideas or inspiration within your network, please be sure to join us for our next live stream that will be looking back at the top trends in the automotive supply chain. Packaging could definitely be one of them. And I would say if you haven't already, it's been, quite a year. So we'll have lots to talk about. And then if you are keen to see where this momentum kind of has been building, obviously stay with us now for the panel, and then after today's session wraps up, I do encourage you to also head over to our previous live streams, as they are also well worth a watch. But right, okay, so into our next section now on to continue that kind of conversation that you have shared with us, Rob, is joining us from North America side is Adam Wiley, Packaging Strategic Planning Senior Principal Engineer at Honda Development and Manufacturing of America. Adam has played a key role in launching multiple returnable packaging fleets to support new model rollouts and lead strategic initiatives that optimize packaging and reverse logistics across the region. And then we also have joined by Aaron Modgill, the CEO of CKD Packaging, who brings a global perspective through his work with multiple OEMs, from designing returnable systems to supporting implementing across borders. Aaron's role offers a broad view of the challenges and opportunities companies have been facing as they scale reusable packaging worldwide. Adam, Aaron, it's great to have you with us here. But I think to kind of kick things off and kick off the discussion, Rob, I want to come straight from you and your presentation. We kind of heard there how Cummins' returnable packaging program is becoming, a major lever for, getting safety right, and then that will kind of bring down costs and it's kind of really looking about cutting that waste. So what's kind of been your biggest takeaway since that program has been implemented?
A few takeaways. I think one of the first ones is when you start looking at recyclability and efficiency improvements and waste reduction. I wouldn't say in every case, but in most cases, you're going to see waste reduction and cost efficiency come down with it if you really start to look at your end-to-end process. So that's one of the takeaways. I think that and the other one that kind of really wraps that up as well is it's about the change management as well. I think we were only talking earlier. We live and breathe this every day, and we literally just got eyes that just spot it straight away, aren't we? We're like little demons. We just see it and go straight after it, and it's not obvious to everyone. So I kind of find information on an Excel spreadsheet or a presentation will take you so far when you need to see the numbers, but I think visualizing and having visual representation from you've taken it from this to this and showing and demonstrating that what you've achieved, so that so people see it visually is definitely growing momentum. So when people start to see this come into their operation, it grows the appetite. They go, oh wow, okay, what's next? And you just see the appetite to do more come into play.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you. I mean, talking about what's next, Adam, from a North American perspective, Honda has already achieved, roughly 98% returnable packaging in its US tier 1 to Honda supply chain. So with, such a mature, you can say mature returnable system, what's kind of next for you? What are your main strategic priorities now?
Yeah, so with the mature returnable packaging system in place, our strategic focus has shifted towards ensuring operational stability and responsiveness, so maintaining it, across our supply chain. So we want to make sure we have the right quantity of packaging available at the right place at the right time. That way our suppliers can plan, produce, and get the parts to Honda so we can continue our operation seamlessly. And that really, to me, has two key points. And the first is capacity planning, so ensuring that we actually purchase enough packaging to support the supply chain loop and sustain it. And then the bigger piece is the reverse logistics execution. So making sure the returnable flow of packaging aligns with the plan And then any deviations, it could be weather, damage to the packaging, misrouting, or any type of mishandling, we need to have some type of immediate response and action taken towards that, not only from the packaging team, but all the stakeholders. So everybody involved in touching the packaging is a stakeholder in returnable packaging. So they must understand what their parts are within the overall process of either alerting it or driving some type of escalation execution to rebalance the system. Packaging is finite, so especially in our operation, we have a lean supply chain. Everything is turning constantly like a bike wheel, never stops. So there are no breaks. If there's a break in the packaging, there's going to be a gap somewhere else. So having systems that are fine-tuned to visually identify that, and again, having the stakeholders on board to support that is critical in maintaining our supply chain loop.
Yeah, perfect. I like the reference that you make there as packaging is finite. Rob, I'm looking at, you know, the EMEA region. I can definitely see some kind of similarities that are coming out, but definitely some differences. Could you share a little bit more about kind of what's standing out to you? What are those opportunities? What's kind of influencing returnable packaging programs on your side in the EMEA, and then we can get Adam's view on the North American side.
I'm working for a global company as well. I've got my counterpart in North America where the program started about 2 years ago. So kind of we obviously cross reference what we're working on, and we kind of have a centralized team that kind of manages that supply network, which is great for driving best practices, etc. So I'll let Adam talk about the US region, and I'll cover EMEA, but I don't think there's too much differences. The biggest difference from the EMEA region really is probably the size, and that is not that much different. But we're working across a lot more countries and languages and etc. and crossing oceans. That's probably the biggest difference. I mean, look at our kind of main supplier base that we're touching on. It's like it hits around 20 different countries, 18 different languages, customs declarations, and stuff like that. We have to consider. So that's probably the biggest challenge. And some of the standards differ a little bit across Europe, not hugely, but some of the hearts of Europe have kind of based a lot of theirs around Euro pallets and collars, whereas now we're moving more to more modular sort of reusable plastics, etc. So helping breaking some of the legacy footprints into the next sort of next level is a bit challenging, because it's not easy to change warehouse configuration in a moving environment. So they're probably the main takeaways.
Yeah, no, thank you, Rob. Adam, anything to kind of share from the North American perspective?
Yeah, I definitely think we may have it a little bit easier on this side of the world with the regulatory compliance, and then not having to deal with as many countries. So, Rob mentioned there's different compliances depending on the country that they're working with. But we have three primarily: the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. So with the USMCA, and even with some of the tariff craziness that's been going on, that's really stabilized a lot in being able to move parts and the return packaging seamlessly. And the other thing I'll just touch on is from a regulatory or environmental sustainability compliance standpoint, I think there's a bit of a difference there right now in what's driving some of the European market compared to what is driving the US or the North American market. We don't have quite the material or sustainability regulatory push yet. So we're able to operate a little bit more freely, which in some cases can allow us to be a little bit more efficient with our packaging.
Yeah, no, perfect. Before I go to Aaron to kind of get that kind of global perspective, kind of you mentioned it already, Rob, like you're dealing with lots of different countries and languages. So Aaron, it would be great to get your perspective there too. But I just want to stick with the regulatory drivers in Europe, as perhaps that is becoming another quite big motivator to bring packaging into focus. So how is this kind of regulatory push really influencing your strategy and urgency around returnables? We heard a little bit in your keynote, but do you view compliance as more of a challenge, or is it kind of helping to build that business case and accelerate adoption of returnable packaging?
Actually, we in our packaging group, we've actually seen that as a good motivation. So normally, regulatory compliance and everything that goes with it puts can strike a bit of fear into you. But we've actually used that to our advantage. So it's helped strengthen business cases and reasons to do it. So I think where we've probably got a bit of ambiguity around what the return on investment is, or will we save areas in probably some of them softer benefits in efficiency, and what does future proofing mean? Like, if we start in a model life, you might not see that benefit of that that modular design really come through for another 4 or 5 years. So how are you going to financially justify that? It's like, well, we have to be in that space for regulatory compliance. So it's helped us with that. That reusability is kind of knock that on the head. We know within our sector that it is going to drive benefit, not just now but also in the future. So it kind of just takes that ambiguity out of the way. So we found it actually it's been to our advantage.
Perfect, thank you. Aaron, jumping to you. I mean, you work with multiple OEMs across the CKD pack. You have a very broad view of how different companies implement returnables. What are some of the common needs or challenges that you're observing across OEMs when it comes to returnable packaging, and how do you see a service like yours kind of supporting these strategies?
See, we design and manufacture our own packaging across the globe in different countries, different regions. And then we also have a logistics arm that actually helps our customers manage the returnable packaging across the globe. We specialize mainly in automotive, but not just automotive. We do aviation and other things. But in automotive side, one of the biggest challenge has been to convince a lot of our OEM customers about returnable packaging being cost effective and implementable across the oceans, across the world. We design our own packaging, then we develop our own logistics system and tracking systems to be able to manage the whole fleet of systems. But the biggest challenge that we face is that a lot of customers buy the cheapest packaging, they buy the cheapest freight, they buy the cheapest trucking and container freights, but not all the packaging is filled up to the efficient level that it needs to be, and then not all the containers and trucks are filled up to the level they could be. Now, when it comes to longer distances, shipping of the parts, the automotive industry has changed dramatically in the last 10, 15 years. It's changing even more. The parts have become a lot more complex. A lot of manufacturing plants now receive sub-assemblies rather than receiving individual parts. A lot of sub-assemblies are very expensive parts. They require very specialized packaging, not just the outer containers. Now, there are two ways of doing it. Either we can do part of it can be a pooled or a modular container system that Rob had very eloquently detailed. And the second is when the parts are more complex, larger sub-assemblies, BIW parts for Volvo or General Motors shipping their CKDs across the globe, or sunroofs of multiple vehicles shipped by Webasto. So there are companies that require containers which are much bigger than the pooled containers, which is majority of the volume that goes into OEM plants. If you look at the components which are complex, traveling longer distances, the packaging design and packaging implementation becomes very, very important, because the cost of that packaging, the cost of transport, especially international transport, a lot of components are still coming internationally, traveling, and sub-assemblies traveling internationally. So whether it is Cummins itself, when we are shipping their components from India to North America, the returnable packaging that we have designed is designed for heavier, complex, machined, sub-assembled parts that need to be very, very expensive to ship. The freight cost, the packaging cost, and then the return freight cost of the packaging are three cost drivers. So you can buy the best returnable packaging, but if you don't maintain it, track it very well, and it's efficiently deployed, that becomes a very big issue, because you're not utilizing your assets very accurately. Then you don't bring the packaging back on time, and especially when the distance is long. When it is within Europe, it's much more easily trackable, because most of it is truck freight. When it is within North America, Canada, USA, Mexico, it is again truck freight, much more easily manageable. But when you're shipping parts across the ponds, across globally. India, China, Asia is still a very big supplier of automotive components to global industry. And then also there's a big shift also between Europe to North America and North America to Europe for the electric vehicle programs, because German companies are assembling vehicles in North America, and North America is also exporting similar vehicles. So there are common platforms for which you don't have individual part suppliers setting up plants everywhere in the world. So they are shipping their sub-assemblies and large parts across longer distances, and they're shipping it to multiple customers. One supplier who there are only a few left for certain types of battery manufacturers and others. So we focus a great deal onto how to design it properly and how to efficiently manage it.
No, of course. I mean, the kind of thing that grabbed me there in kind of what you were saying here is the being cost effective. That's kind of, the bottom line. And we're actually getting quite a few questions in from the audience, and someone's actually asked about, the standardization throughout the value system of packaging. Standards create a lean system where this certain attendee finds is that in North America, OEMs don't follow the same kind of standards. So Rob, Adam, I really want to kind of get your thoughts on kind of packaging standardization and modular design, and how they're often key to cost efficiency, but to scaling returnables as well. So kind of how is important is it to your strategy, to both your strategies, to standardize packaging? Rob, I'll come to you first.
It's critical. So we can come up with the standards that optimize and fill trucks up, but there's a number of things you need to do in line with your supplier and your planning functions and everything else, and that starts with working with the supplier. It really starts at new product introduction, from getting it right first time, that you need to develop that within your supplier and your operation. And really look at the things like the weights, the dimensions of the part, what kind of volume consumption you're going to use. You've got to align it with. It then depends how the machining, batch quantities being built, and come up with that optimal kind of design that satisfies that entire supply chain. There's going to be bits of winners and losers throughout that process, but you're looking to find that sweet spot. And we're coming up with stuff like that in our design process now, where we can look at the number of parts and take all them kind of algorithms and come up with that kind of optimal sweet spot. So that's the one thing, and obviously adherence to that process as well. So if people don't, always say, if you don't have boundaries and rules, then you have chaos. So you've really got to manage it. But you've got to be open as well. You've got to invite people to be open to identify there's an improvement opportunity, and you've got to be open to listen to it and want to go and investigate it and come up with a solution. I think thou shall do attitude definitely is not the way forward. It's not a way to work. You want to be collaborative with all your key partners.
Yeah, for sure. Adam, do you have anything to add there on the standardization side?
Yeah, I think on its surface, standardization is critical for a returnable packaging fleet and management of it. You need to be able to have some planned consistency. So obviously not everything's going to fit in a one-size-fits-all pack. If you do, then you're obviously not being efficient enough with your design and your supply chain. So you're going to have to introduce some variety. We'll have some larger containers, some modular containers as a mix, a library over time that you'll establish and determine that the majority of our parts are going to be able to fit within this footprint. And then there's also layers underneath that. So you can have the standard footprints, but then there's flexibility with what goes inside and how you design those interior and you design the interior of that footprint. So I think it was mentioned earlier about subassembly parts. Parts are getting more complicated. So the internals of the packaging can be vastly different while the dimensions can be the same. And that allows for the flexibility needed in order to get the maximization of shipping parts and an orientation necessary to run operations at suppliers and at whatever the manufacturing location is. One thing that I think I heard from the question, though, is, or at least that I want to point out is, even within Honda, we target to have commonality and consistency. There are characteristics and conditions that can limit that. So if you have two different manufacturing plants that have two different setups and you have one supplier that's producing parts to both, you're going to end up with two completely different types of packs to support those characteristics and conditions. And from a supplier standpoint, being the single source there, it becomes very frustrating and challenging to be able to set up an operation to handle two different types of packaging. So that is a key element that's a struggle point and an area of focus whenever we try to develop a new packaging fleet to limit that. And then the other thing I'll put was standardization. So we just talked about the physical pack, but when you have standards, you have to think about everything else that, I guess I should say, when you have a returnable packaging fleet, having the standards helps the overall operational plan be successful. The data behind it is really critical too, in order to confirm that we have the right packaging dimensions and pack quantities to properly route plan. So we have good cubing efficiency. If I physically have a pack that's 45 by 48, but I show it as a 75 by 78, then I'm not going to have nearly the cube efficiency that I need. So the data behind packaging is really critical and is a key component to being able to have efficiency and cost down within the supply chain. So that's another element that's needs to be managed within the packaging element. And if we have the standardization, that it helps drive simplicity. So we have reliability and efficiency and scalability.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, within all of that as well, Adam, is material as well, and often packaging flows not just being in one loop. How does like Honda manage packaging strategies across its multi-directional flows?
So we'll plan for every single one of our suppliers down to what they need. However, going off of the standard comment there's a lot of industry standard packaging that Honda uses that other OEMs use as well. So whenever there's a deviation in the plan and maybe too much packaging arrives at a supplier, or there's an order cut and the additional packaging is sitting there, it's often sitting right next to a pack that looks very similar to another automotive maker. And from a supplier standpoint, those can get easily mixed up. So we can have containers that fall without, or that move outside of our supply chain loop. So one of the things that Honda's focused on is trying to prevent this. So I think Rob mentioned this earlier in the presentation about KPIs. How can we use the data in our systems to have visibility to when we have deviations within our plan and ensuring that packaging is returned? In addition to that, one of the things that we're testing from a technology standpoint is combining things like GPS tracking with some smart analytics and KPI trends that allow us to pinpoint when containers do exit our loop, where they went, so we can share that information with our suppliers and work to course correct and mitigate those issues so we can keep everything within our flow.
Yeah, perfect. Aaron, I want to come to you from one of the questions from the audience around, packaging of EV for export, and obviously you're dealing with different materials there. You're dealing with different weights here. Can you comment a little bit around that on kind of some of the opportunities, some of the challenges?
Yeah, all three regions, Europe, Asia, and North America, have different standardization going on amongst them. If you remember a vehicle called Tata Nano, which was one of the cheapest vehicles ever produced, but CKD Pack was able to implement returnable systems there. Now, in the case of EVs, we are doing the battery packaging from the smallest vehicle, which is a two-wheeler in India, to some of the largest pickup truck batteries, which weigh about 4,500 pounds, at almost 2.5 tons of a battery for the trucks for the North American market. So our solutions of standardization of battery packaging in India or in China are more geared towards the European standard sizes, whereas in North America, because obviously General Motors makes some of the largest vehicles in the world, from Escalades to pickup trucks, and then it keeps becoming smaller. So the North American standardization is across the 53-foot truck footprints, whereas in Europe it is more than 40-foot truck foots, and then across the globe it is depending upon what size of trucks are available in those countries. Then there are plants that have modular system, that have manipulator systems that pick up the batteries from the packaging and put them into vehicles. So we have to design the packaging that can fit into our OEM's infrastructure that they have implemented in their plants. So within countries, we have modular systems, but within OEMs, sometimes it doesn't work because some of the customers, General Motors, make bigger vehicles than Honda makes bigger vehicles than Suzuki in India. So we have standardization across certain sectors, but sometimes it's not possible because the if you're packing a 4-ton battery or 3-ton battery. So we have done returnables in all of these scenarios, and we have returnable foldable solutions for all of these, from heavy-duty steel racks and containers for the larger batteries to PP sleeve containers with thermoform trays for 3 OEMs in India. So we have gone from the smallest scooter batteries to the largest pickup truck batteries, and also the larger truck batteries. So we have to keep a lot of things in mind, but standardization, to Rob's discussion, is very, very important to bring stuff into the plants and take it from there.
Yeah, all coming back to standardization. We're having a few more questions, but Rob, I want to point this one to you because you spoke about it a little bit into your presentation on lightweight packaging being, a lever for cost savings, but you also mentioned it was kind of a benefit for reducing miles on the road. What does lightweight packaging, where does lightweight packaging come into play for your operations? We had a little bit, but how are you balancing that with, durability and reusability needs?
Yeah, so it's about the concept really is about just taking some weight. Literally, is taking weight out there. Certainly, like the plastic returnables, but also having them that's stackable. So you need a level of strength and durability to survive the supply chain journeys, especially when you're cross-docking and stacking, etc. So they need to survive that. So it's about doing that, but it's about then taking lightweight out of it. So, like for example, we've got some steel racks that we look at the size of the parts or the components going in there, and we look and go, actually, with some smart internal dunnage system, we can remove that steel. So there's a place for steel. We do absolutely need it in certain aspects, but it's just eliminating that extra weight where we can. And that means then, by the nature of some of our components, especially some of the castings that we bring in, they would, if you stack packaging up in a standard European truck, you could easily weight out the truck before you cubed it out. So if you can strip some weight out of the packaging, it gives you more capacity to load more out of that supplier or wherever you may cross-dock it. Or the second part of that is if you're cubing the truck out just on volume but not the weight, well, you strip some weight out still from the packaging, so you have a better fuel efficiency as well. So that's what it is. I mean, the weight of the packaging has no value to the transport, does it? It just has to be. It isn't just naturally a byproduct of the design. So the more you can get out of that, the more you can improve efficiency, and also just in operational handling as well. It's just better. So things like point of use, your sort of flow through racks, etc. They can be made more lightweight because you're not putting so much weight through them as you maybe typically would do. So it's that's kind of where the advantages come.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, go on, Aaron.
Sorry, maybe make an example of what we did recently. In the last 10 years or so, we developed a returnable glass rack system for all the windshields and glass that are used in automotive. And we have a 100-kilogram rack that can carry 2,000 kilograms of glass on it. So we had a target of 1:15 ratio of packaging versus parts. And then we designed the rack, which can be expanding into different sizes, different heights. The same rack can expand lengthwise, widthwise, and heightwise. So we eliminated 32 different sizes of wood crates for one of our OEM customers for glass. And one single rack can actually ship every single type of glass that they have. So making lightweighting of packaging is very, very important. And even for Cummins, when we are shipping some of the heavy-duty components, our packaging is 15 times less than the gross weight it is carrying. So even if it is heavier parts, there is a big cost saving to be made by making the packaging lightweight.
Yeah, no. So bringing it all back to that cost efficiency, that standardization. I want to talk a little bit more about kind of like the infrastructure of returnable packaging as well. I mean, you have the design, you have the material, but the collection hubs, the cleaning and repair centers, the tracking systems, they all contribute to an efficiency. Adam, I'm going to come to you on this in terms of like, do you feel the reverse logistics process is kind of keeping pace with industry demands? Kind of, are there any improvements that need to be made to make the reverse flow a little bit more efficient?
So my viewpoint may be a touch limited. Obviously, I'm going to speak from the Honda viewpoint here. So I'd say it depends on what infrastructure we're looking at, as far as like collection hubs, repair centers, etc. I think that is, at least over the last 20 years from a Honda standpoint, been carved out really nicely. We understand, supply chain is going to live, it's going to breathe, right? So you have to have this infrastructure to support the return side as production variations occur. When we move into the tracking systems, though, I think that's where we could look at the reverse logistics side and say, maybe it's fallen behind a little bit, or it never was where the inbound part receiving is. It's very important. We want to know where all of our parts are, right? So we also want to know where all of our packaging is. We have cool technology like GPS, Bluetooth, RFID. There are systems out there, either homegrown or off the shelf, that you can use that help aggregate and manage returnable data. But I don't know, at least through my experience, not everything has been completely put together quite yet. There's definitely holes within the systems, and we'll launch RFID or something like that. It sounds amazing, and then you get into it, and there's problems, right? That's part of what developing and launching a new system is all about. There's an element of reflection, learning from your failures, and improving. But I think as the good thing is, as new technologies and as we learn from our failures and stuff like that, as new software comes about, we're catching up rather quickly. There's definitely a vision where we should be able to provide the same level of, I said vision, but visibility on the returnable side as we do on the inbound side. So definitely see that. And then I think there's some cases where we have some, I mentioned the GPS tracking before. Using analytics and technology like that combined, you may have a whole packaging fleet out there of thousands of packs. You track 2% of those with GPS trackers, you're going to have 100% visibility to how your fleet's actually handled within the supply chain, where it's going outside of your bounds, how it's flowing from a dwell standpoint. So even with some limited technology inputs, you can get really good information that's going to allow you to identify issues real time, categorize and analyze your problems, and then develop solutions that can be scaled across the rest of across your entire fleet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a question we've got from the audience that perhaps relates to some of those gaps and challenges is, Rob, I want to ask you this: is that there is a clear opportunity when it comes to packaging in automotive logistics, but it requires investing resource and time to create and implement those initiatives. So, is there really enough investment in this area? Is kind of what we're kind of trying to tackle.
Well, short answer is no. No, not at all. I think the importance and the value we talked about earlier is, I think, still being understood. I think we know it. So if you was asked what would you like to get the job done, I think we could very quickly do. We've already probably got, most of us probably got an org and team ready in mind to go and do that. But I think it's a case of evolution. It's prove the concept out, demonstrate its value, and then it will grow. And I think I'm certain it will evolve. It'll evolve from there. If you see an area that's delivering value, we're going to go and invest more time and resource into it. But I think it's just about proving that out. Kind of the second part of that as well is, and we are, I'd say, we haven't got that finalised yet, but we're definitely working with our teams on new product introduction as well. So we're making sure that we align our processes at how we want to be in the future from the outset. So we kind of got a point in time where we're working to the right first time approach. So then we've got the retrospective cleanup, but it's a perfectly good statement. We would like more resources to focus on this, but we also recognise it's got to be demonstrated. I could speak for my company that its financial position is where it is because it has very strict sort of robust financial controls about where it invests its money, etc., and that rigor has I think helped us come up with some very strong business cases, focus our eyes in the right places. But have we got everything we need from the outset or would like? No, but we've got a good strong strategy to achieve that, and then the results, I'm certain, will give us more of what we need.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hopefully everyone can use this kind of live stream as that business case for investment. But Aaron, I want to come to you because part of this is packaging isn't always available when and where it's needed, and it can cause costly downtime. And we were talking about cost efficiency earlier. So how would you kind of support to mitigate those risks in a returnable packaging network?
See, about 7 or 8 years ago, one of our customers, we were supplying the returnable packaging to. We saw that based on the products that were shipped in our packaging, they were buying too much packaging, although it was kind of anti our own business. But at the same time, we wanted to do the right thing. So we developed our own tracking system for that, and we presented them with the data to say that, look, if you bring the packaging back on time and maybe it's being misplaced or maybe it's not being used properly. So what we did was, in the last 8 years, we have developed our own systems to do this. And the best part is that we are not asking our customers to invest in returnable packaging anymore. This doesn't mean standard modular containers like some of the companies have. We do specialized route-to-routes or focus strategies where we will invest ourselves in the packaging. So to remove the fear of capital approvals, capital asset purchase approvals from returnable packaging, and then we charge our customer on a per component basis. If they're shipping parts from China to UK or from UK to US, for example, for some of our customers, we'll give you the packaging, we'll design the packaging, do the testing of it, supply it, and we will charge only for the components that have been shipped. That means the entire risk of how big the fleet should be, how much investment has gone into is onto us. And we will give you the packaging at the source. We will pick it up at the other end. We will bring it back, clean it, and give it to our customers. More or less like a pull system, but this is more a focused solution system where we do the outer containers. We do very, very complex thermoform trays or foam trays or EPP systems. And we do returnable donnages, inserts, etc. And all of that is built into a per component pricing. So we have our own tracking system. We track our own packaging. We have a packaging portal to track the packaging. And through our tracking portal for packaging, our customers are able to track their components globally. This is not just within a continent, globally as well.
Yeah, perfect. Adam, I want to come to you on kind of the same question and looking at the other side of, what are some of the best practices to ensure packaging doesn't become that weak link in the supply chain?
Strong KPI measures. I think a very simple one to put out there is a plan versus actual. You know what your plan is, and you have to be able to measure your actuals through your returnable systems. And whatever metric or measure you want to set on that actual, if it falls below, you better have mitigation plans in place to correct it, or you will run into issues like I mentioned earlier about being a finite resource. So that can be expedites, or that can be having some type of abnormal backup packaging option that the suppliers have already worked on to support, because going down and not shipping parts is not an option that we want to get into. So we have to establish containment and control measures, but having strong KPIs like a plan versus actual support the visibility and awareness needed to maintain the fleet.
Yeah, perfect. And we are coming up to the hour, so I just want to kind of end on what this whole live stream was, to really try and make sure push packaging out there, make sure we know more about the challenges and the opportunities. So what excites you most about the the future of returnable packaging in automotive logistics? Rob, I'll come to you first.
So I think I would just say we're just getting started where we can go with this, and the value it really brings. And I think when you're challenged as well with efficiency, especially if your resources are a bit tight and everything else, it really does challenge you to think about how can you optimize and stretch and get the best out of something. And I think this is probably one sector where we really are striving for best in class. So I think where we're going with this, I think the speed, especially around the digitalization, the tracking and the visualization, we're at a point now where we could tell you, the technology is already there, where we could tell you where the component is in a container, within a truck, within a square meter, on the globe. And so creating that real time supply chain visibility coupled with the packaging as well, is a real game changer. So, seeing that technology come through, I think in the next 5 years, we'll be talking about this again in a much different light. So, it's exciting where this could go.
Yeah, perfect. Adam, same question to you.
Yeah, so I think this helps answer the investment question as well, as it can become a need in the future. Right now, how do we have enough to invest in? It doesn't make sense. But when we talk automation, packaging becomes the conduit between a supplier and a manufacturing location, where you don't want people to be able to touch parts. You just want it to flow seamlessly. So that is a huge challenge for us right now, but it's also something that's super exciting, where we can see packaging integrated into the overall supply chain and manufacturing system across the board due to the automation that's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, perfect. Nice. And Aaron, to wrap us up, based on everything we just discussed here, this being, a business case for packaging, we're looking at cost effectiveness, standardization, material packaging, driving those costs down. Kind of how are you factoring all of this into your solutions at CKD Pack?
See, first of all, the manufacturing technology is improving dramatically. We can use much more complex manufacturing processes to make the packaging a lot more efficient, and also to standardize a lot of products that we can manufacture on same equipment. So that is driving the cost down for a lot of complex packaging nowadays. The second thing is, for anyone listening to the live stream, we just want to tell you that don't be scared if you're shipping parts on a longer distances, that the returnable packaging cannot be cost effective. It is a very cost effective if you just look through the business cases where we design something properly, very, very efficiently. The second thing is that with the robotics and automation coming onto the production lines, the packaging is becoming a lot more sophisticated. Besides, we are designing a lot of products for our customers where the robots are touching the packaging. Humans do not have any interference at all on it. So technology is really helping in driving the cost down. The cost of returnable systems is much lower than ever in the history. The freight has also become a lot more efficient. The visibility of packaging has become a lot better now using Bluetooth and Wi-Fi technologies. So I think it's time that we do not use trees and other natural resources for packaging, where we reduce the carbon footprint, we save this environment, and we save this Mother Earth for better use for humans.
Yeah, a great way to wrap us up. I mean, we'll probably be having to do a part 2 on packaging, which I know will please Rob, because we've had so many questions come in from the audience, and I know we didn't get to all of them in the hour, but we will share them and circulate them with our speakers here today, and make sure that some sort of whether it's through our editorial content or even more, that these answers are shared with you. But for now, thank you, Aaron, Rob, and Adam. Thank you for sharing your insights with us today. I just want to end on a very last note from me, that packaging will remain center stage across our 2026 events. It will definitely be a focus at our upcoming event in Bonn in March, where we'll also be launching a dedicated packaging supplement within our magazine that drops at the event. We'll be returning to it again in our new UK event in June, and of course at our flagship show in Detroit in September. These conversations you'll definitely want to be a part of, so please do mark your calendars now. But before we totally wrap up, a final thank you to CKD Pack for supporting this live stream, and to Rob and Aaron for really supporting and sharing your insights today, and to all of you who are watching live or on demand, thank you for joining us. It'll be good to keep this conversation going. Stay connected with us across all of our channels, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon on another Automotive Logistics live stream. Take care and goodbye for now.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.